It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Bill Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Any coach in this business that tries to act like they didn't know that there were some shenanigans going on, the way that it was reported, not being honest with you. And by the way, I'm not taking shots at other coaches' opinions. That's my answer. That's not in response to what other coaches say.
I don't have anything to comment on about the story this morning other than my comment that we put out. I'm not going to get into those details or any of that kind of stuff.
No. We're moving forward, and all the other questions can be referred to my attorney.
Well, what a 24 hours it has been with the state of South Carolina right in the middle of the cyclone. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Friday night from downtown Columbia. Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. We have got a bang-up show for you tonight, including USC Athletics Director Ray Tanner at the bottom of the hour, previously scheduled for tonight. This is not the result of the news that came out today. We'd already had him down on the agenda, and he's agreed to be there for our phone call. He is over at Founders Park, but that game could be over by the time we get to him. They are in the top of the ninth with USC leading 7-0 over Charleston Southern. Clemson is leading Dallas Baptist 11-0 in the top of the seventh. Details on all that coming up. But unfortunately, the games are overshadowed by what has transpired today in the FBI probe of college basketball. Certainly, you know that the Yahoo Sports Report came out this morning, messing up everybody's Friday. And it involves Clemson, and it involves South Carolina, and it involves a Jerron Blossom game, and it involves P.J. Dozier, and it involves about 20 other big-time college basketball programs across the country, and about, give or take, 20 or so major college basketball players. So when something like this comes out, guys, first thing everybody wants to do is come up with a solution. How to fix it? How do we stop this? What is a solution? I don't think, as much as I hold us in a high way as being deep thinkers, and there are great sports thinkers across the country, I don't think anybody has an absolute perfect fix to the problems of college athletics. We'll throw some things out there here as we discuss this over the next few minutes. I'm not so sure that when you come up with a fix that somebody doesn't try to find a way to get around that. So let's just get the reaction to people here in our studio first, and then we'll go from there. Go ahead, Will. I know you've got some things that you want to say about what came down today from the Yahoo Sports Report.
Well, also don't forget about Brian Bowen involved in it as well, current USC player as well, former Louisville player. We assume that all of this stuff transpired with him while he was at Louisville and not necessarily at USC. But again, all that in the timeline is unknown. But just conceptually, I don't understand where the harm is in these guys trying to make money off their likeness and off of their God-given ability. I understand the value of a scholarship, but the fact that American capitalism is basically being spat on by the NCAA and has been spat on, it speaks as nothing else other than the NCAA acting as a collusion-driven cartel for a very confusing and circular logic-driven system, in the fact that they try to justify these guys as amateurs, and the reason that they don't pay them is because they call them amateurs, even though they, as quote-unquote amateurs, are providing a multi-million-dollar service to the NCAA that they're getting basically for free. And in my view, there's no shame on any of these players for going out and getting the money that they are so very well deserved in. And I see no harm in the ability of these guys to try and go out and earn money against their likeness. Yes, it might be against the rules, but it's against any kind of human decency for them not to be able to be paid for the ability to have their likeness used.
Well, let me shoot a hole in that. I hear what you're saying. And, for many, many years, I was totally opposed to that. And I'm not so sure, I'm still not, but I'm a lot less opposed than I was, say, 10 years ago. But you do not forget this, Pro. The players who took money knew they were breaking the rules. Now, you might not like the rules, okay? You might disagree with the rules. You might believe that you deserve as much as your coach deserves in his $1 million contract. But you can't do it under the current rules. And by taking the money, whether it was P.J. Dozier, Jerron Blossom game, whoever you want to name that's been identified, you are risking everything that you've worked for in college. You're risking South Carolina having to take down the banner of the Final Four. If you're a North Carolina player, you're risking forfeiting a national championship. You know the rules. You know coming out of high school that if you go to college, you sign a scholarship, you can't take the money. You also know this. When you take money illegally against the rules, not maybe against the rules of America, but against the NCAA rules, when you take the money, you are owned by the people who give you the money. And at some point in time, you run the risk of being exposed. Just like in football, or I'm sorry, any form of recruiting, if you pay a player to come to your school illegally, that player owns you. And if he wants to expose you at some point in time in the future, that's always out there. So I hold the players accountable and responsible for this mess that they're in right now because they know the rules, Pro. And they shouldn't have taken the money. Agree or disagree with whether or not, this is not a debate right now, this point, about whether or not they should be paid. They can't be paid. That's the rules. So don't take. Okay, I give you that. But would you give me the argument that the players know the rules and should not have taken the money?
No.
Well, here's the deal.
Oh, you said no.
I said no.
I
blame the NCAA.
Here's the deal. The kids should not have taken the money by the rules. But here's the deal. They're not the adults in the room. The adults in the room knew what it was wrong. Let me tell you something else. The adults in the room also see who the sacred cows are in college basketball. Do you think the money is going to teams like Clemson, South Carolina players, or they're going to the top 20 players, top 50 players? Where do they usually go? Oh, North Carolina, Duke, Kansas, Syracuse. But the people who lead the NCAA and those colleges, they look the other way because these are the sacred cows who are dealing with this, and they turn a blind eye.
I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Alabama is mixed up in this. They're not a NCAA basketball sacred cow.
We've been talking about this has been going on for several
Iowa State
years.
Here's the biggest problem. Here's the biggest problem with all this. The NCAA does not want to do anything about this because they do not want to give any money of their cut they get from the cash cow that is the NCAA tournament, because if they start regulating payments toward players, then that takes away from the money that they can make. There's not an infinite amount of money that can be made here. The problem is that they do not, that they're basically allowing this to happen and turning a blind eye to it and letting this whole little black market exist of college basketball players and college football players being paid under the table because they know that these players are playing in the NCAA tournament, which is their big cash cow.
So you're saying the NCAA is not going to take any action in this case?
Absolutely not. For what reason would they do so?
So you're saying none of these schools named here, none of these players named here are going to be facing any sort of scrutiny from the NCAA?
You want to know why?
I'm asking.
You want to know why? Because the NCAA does not want St. Bonaventure and Drexel to play each other in the Elite Eight.
Okay, well, I think you're totally wrong about that.
They don't.
They're going to.
They know what kind of money they can make off of Duke and North Carolina.
Well, you're being silly.
I'm not being silly. I'm being practical.
They're going to. Practicality is not the question here. It's what they're going to do.
They're
going to investigate, and they're going to slam some schools and some players.
It'll be a sham like they always do, because that's what the NCAA does.
North Carolina. We've seen that story before.
More of your calls are coming up on Sports Talk. Hit us up at 800-956-7266.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. USC has gone final with Charleston Southern. Adam Hill was fantastic today. USC wins it 7-0, 7-9-1 for the Gamecocks, 0-1-3 for the Buccaneers. That hit did not come off of Hill. Hill was darn near perfect. 7 innings, 14 strikeouts. That is a park record. That is a individual record. He allowed no hits, of course, no runs, no walks, faced 22 batters. He struck out 14 through 100 pitches, 64 for strikes. So he was fantastic.
Base runner he allowed was no fault of his own. It was an error by the first baseman on a routine ground ball. So in that regard, he basically pitched his way through a lineup that, let's be honest, Charleston Southern comes in here not necessarily highly touted, but he did a lot better than he did against VMI.
Hunter Lomas pitched an inning, gave up the 1 hits, and Coyne finished up for the Gamecocks. He struck out 2, so the Gamecocks win it. And you're going to get a preview today of next Friday's matchup in Columbia between USC and Clemson. Hill pitching today for the Gamecocks. Up at Clemson, the Tigers routing Dallas Baptist 11-0 in the bottom of the 7th, 11-14-0, 0-3-1. Hennessy started for Clemson. He'll start next Friday here in Columbia. He gave up 3 hits. He struck out 8. He walked 2. Spires is now on for the Tigers, and we'll give you more details about the offense. But I want to get back to the big story of the day, the NCAA and the FBI. Right now, the FBI probe, the NCAA probe will certainly follow once all the FBI work is finished up. And again, I don't know what an absolute good answer to this situation is. I want to try to keep it in perspective. You've got over 350 Division I basketball teams. So that's thousands of players across the country. And we're talking about a very small number of schools involved here and a small number of players when it comes to the entire picture of college basketball. So it would not be fair to say that this is certainly widespread throughout the sport, but it is hitting home with some of the biggest names in the sport. Part of the problem is with the way the world is in college sports today and the recruiting activities. Kids, they come out of high school, they have been wined and dined. If they are a very talented player, they've been wined and dined since they were in the 7th, 8th grade through AAU programs, even through some high school programs. These travel teams and everything that goes in with that. They come out of high school with a sense of entitlement, like, I'm owed something now for my talents and for my skills.
Why not?
Well, I'm going to get to that if you'll just let me finish. So my thought is the same thing. Why shouldn't they expect to continue to receive that when they get to college? Now, even though the college scene is set up in a different way, rightly or wrongly, again, it is the way that it is. So maybe it's time to take a major step back. If you are colleges, take a major step back and working with the professional leagues, adopt the baseball model, and maybe even more so by saying that when you come out of high school and you are a stud athlete, you are that special athlete, one of the few. Keep in mind that like 6% of high school football players sign college scholarships. It's not a big number when you think about the thousands of people who play, because it's the best of the best. It gets weaned down. But if you're one of those in that even smaller circle of players who is good enough to go play professionally, then let the professional leagues deal with that. Let's let the professional leagues take over the job of the colleges and develop their own players and take players out of high school and pay them and develop them, even for football. Maybe this idea that you need 3 years of seasoning in college to play pro football is a farce. maybe you don't. Maybe it's just something we've always believed because it was beneficial to the NFL to have the colleges develop their talent and then work them right into the NFL. Let's just do away with all that. If you're good enough coming out of high school and you want to go pursue a professional career in football, basketball, baseball, do so. But if you decide to go to college, then it's got to be a commitment that you stay in college, I would say 4 years, and get a degree. Much like if you sign up with the Army and they're paying for your existence and they're giving you in the Army, everything you need to live, you make a commitment to stay in the Army or the whichever form of the military you choose for X number of years. When you take a college scholarship, it's not like you're living off beans and wieners. You get your housing paid for, you get your education paid for, you get your food paid for, all your subsistence is paid for both at home and when you go on the road. When you go on the road in today's world of college athletics, if you're a big time program, you're staying at the nicest hotels in the cities. You travel first class. Oftentimes you travel charter. It's very nice in the big league of college sports. So what I'm trying to say here, what I am saying here is for colleges to back away from those players who are to redesign the college model where you're taking the athletes who aren't going to play pro ball, that you're going to sign those guys for the right reasons that colleges were set up first for to begin with. Education, not driven by the athletic side. Let the professional guys go on and let the pros take them, and let the guys who are good enough to play at the college level, but maybe the college level only, play college sports. You'll have the same competition. You can still root for your college. You can still win championships. You can still go to the playoffs. Everything else can stay the same. You're just not going to have that elite group that feels like they should be paid for. How many players on a football team feel like they should be paid thousands of dollars because of their talents?
All of them.
All of them.
Oh, come on. Can we have a serious conversation?
Here's the problem.
Now, answer my question. How many players on a college football team are of the elite status that they should be paid for their talents?
It depends.
Out of 85 signees.
It depends. If I'm at Alabama, I think 60 to 70 of them think they ought to be paid.
Okay, but that's just not legit. Can we have a legitimate conversation?
The legitimate conversation is the model is broken.
That's what I'm just saying.
Well, here's the issue. You're not going to get rid of it is the problem. So you might as well try to embrace it as much as possible because, number one, you want the best players coming to college. And number two, the players want to be compensated.
Not if you can't afford them. Or you refuse to pay them if
Nick
you're not
Saban
going to do it.
Nick Saban is making $10 million this year. You think they can't take some of that money and make it go to students?
Why not let those best players just go right to the pros? What's wrong with that?
Because they're not good enough to play in the pros right out of school, at least for football.
Says who?
Says any talent evaluator in the National Football League.
Could Jadeveon Clowney gone right from high school to play on an NFL team?
No.
Okay. You don't know what you're talking about.
I do know what I'm talking about. No. Nobody in their right mind would have put him on a football field at 18 years old. An NFL football field with grown men? Come on.
Crazy.
No, you're not. You don't know how to get past this whole collegiate sports is supposed to be this puritanical, model. It's not that anymore. They're not amateurs.
I'm saying
this basically is the minor leagues of sports,
and it shouldn't be.
It's too late.
No, it's not.
You've made it that way.
No, it's not too late.
It's too late. It's already gone. We've jumped the shark. There's too much money involved.
No, it's not too late if you are willing enough and have the spine to look at it and say,
I have the spine to look at it. It's
not
going to happen.
I'm not talking about you. You don't have any power. I'm talking about the powers that be that run the college game. If they look at it and say, look, we got to take a step back or we're always going to be dealing with this sort of situation. Just because the FBI is doing a probe now and is going to go through this investigation, there's going to be the next investigation and the one after that.
That's why you have those huge books of NCAA rules. Why? Because nobody's going to have the guts to step back because guess what? Nobody trusts anybody. He'll step back, but I won't. We still have a winner here, and this is what we're going to put on the table.
They've been cheating for 30 years. What makes you think they're just going to all of a sudden quit and stop cold turkey?
We'll be right back. right, welcome back in Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. USC has beaten Charleston Southern today, 7-0. Clemson at the top of the 8th, leading Dallas Baptist 12-0. More details on those games coming up. Coastal and Illinois 4-4 in the bottom of the 7th. Long Island leading Charleston 7-2 in the bottom of the 9th. Back to the topic of the day, and that is the FBI probe into college basketball. USC AD Ray Tanner, previously scheduled to be with us tonight, so this isn't the case of us dialing him up just because USC is involved in this situation. He was going to be with us all along, and we thank him for joining us after watching his baseball team play very well today and get a great win over Charleston Southern. Coach, how are you?
Doing great, Phil. Just watched a 2-hour, 14-minute baseball game, which we don't see too often, and well, Adam Hill was spectacular, so it was a great afternoon at Founders Park.
14 strikeouts, so you like to see that from your starting pitcher.
Well, I tell you, I know that, last week it was just uncharacteristic of his outing, and he more than made up for it. It was a tremendous day. We played well all around, had some home runs, and it was just a really, really well played game, and looking forward to a couple more this weekend.
All right, I know you issued a statement this morning once you got word of the Yahoo Sports story, and you can't comment on the details, and we certainly respect that. USC's kind of caught up in a couple of different ways here with Evans and Bowen. What do you think this is ultimately going to lead to in terms of long-term impact on college sports, not just college basketball, as you sit back and you take the temperature of the landscape of college athletics now with this going on?
Well, Phil, I think that I sit in the place that a lot of other people sit. And, maybe being an athletics director, people think that maybe I have more insight. But I think you have to go through some turbulent times to correct that the issues that might be considered wrongdoing. And there apparently is a case. We don't know everything. I mean, it seems to be a wide spectrum of issues, and not a lot has been resolved. I know DOJ is involved, and eventually I think some things will come out. But I sit in the place that a lot of others do, and I think we'll be better off in the long run. But there's certainly, some turbulent times as you get there.
Well, you don't want to overreact. And again, it's a relatively small number of players and a relatively small number of schools when you think of how many teams are playing Division I college basketball today. So you don't want to overreact. We're sitting here arguing whether or not it's just time to pay players like pros, or is it time for the NCAA college athletics to take a step back and become, let the players coming out of high school who are good enough go and be developed by the pros, and you guys take those other athletes who want to be students and who want to be in college, not for professional sports reasons. Both are kind of drastic, I guess. Is one way or the other going to be the alternative, or is there a happy medium in there somewhere?
I'm not sure, and I would be philosophical, like you might be, or anybody else. You are very familiar with the baseball model. You can go pro out of high school. And
yeah.
You can forego college and become professional, and that's the route you take. And I'm not completely against that. I don't think it's right for a whole lot of athletes. It's hard. It's very difficult to be in college and become a pro and make a living at it, regardless of the sport. But I think you should be allowed to do that if if you're an NBA guy and you can't play in the NBA, you play in the D League or the minor leagues in basketball. You made that decision to become a professional, and I think that that's okay. I think you got to be one place or the other, and I'm not for paying athletes. I'm against that. I think we made some adjustments over the years. We have cost of attendance now. We do a lot more with nutrition. We do a lot more with extra meals and occasional meals where, you got plenty of opportunities to feed your players on different occasions based on the schedule. So we do a lot more than we've ever been allowed to do before. But I think we're in a good place. But I think that if you want to become a professional, go play professional sports. And if it doesn't work out, you become a student at a university, but you're your amateur status is gone.
Ray, I don't want this to sound accusatory, so I beg your pardon if it sounds that way, but I'm just going to ask you philosophically, where's the harm in allowing these men to make money off their likeness like any other American capitalism sector would allow them to?
Well, my opinion is I don't think there is harm in it, but that's professionalism, in my opinion. So you've got a better opportunity if you're an NBA player with your marketing. If you're in an amateur status, if you're playing college sports, there's less opportunities, I think. So it's just, again, you get to be, it's your opinion. You get to be philosophical about these things. Where do you draw the line? How much do you do? How much can you do? Whose donors have the biggest businesses? Where is the most money? I don't think it could work equally. I think the landscape changes. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we talked about parity in college athletics. I think some progress was made. Maybe we've gone away from that a little bit, but with what you were suggesting, I think you completely lose control and it goes in a different way.
But you could argue that some of the control is already gone, though, Coach.
Well, maybe so, maybe some, but I don't think we've completely gone away from it. There's still amateur athletes, and there's still rules and guidelines and legislation in place that gives you some protection. So I like the model of being a student athlete, getting a degree. The percentages of becoming professionals are very, very low in all sports. And again, we made some changes. We do have cost of attendance now, and we do a lot of things that we weren't able to do years ago. And I think we're in a good place.
Talking with USC Athletics Director Ray Tanner, and just following up on Will's point, but on the other direction, why wouldn't colleges take a step back and say, you know what, NFL, NBA, and like MLB is doing, you want to go select the very best players graduating from high school in any given year, you take them, you develop a farm system, you pay them. Now, they say football players, they need to come out of high school, go to college, and be developed. Well, those guys who feel like they're ready to be paid, why can't the NFL develop its own farm system, develop them, and pay them, and they can go get they can do their commercials and do their marketing and let the pros do that. And you guys, the colleges, I hate to say settle. There's a lot of really good athletes who will never play professional sports. You get those people who want to commit to college for 4 years and commit to getting a degree. The competition would still be intense. Clemson and South Carolina would still hate each other. Alabama and Auburn would still hate each other. You could still play for conference championships, bowl games, and the like. Why can't the colleges do that? Or can that be done?
Well, you might have lost me. I thought when you started the conversation, you were saying let the guys that want to be pros, and we'll play with the guys that aren't pros.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying.
That's where I'm at. I'm like, if there is an elite athlete, regardless of the sport, and he or she is ready to go, and there's a franchise that's ready to make an investment and train them and develop them, have at it. I mean, they forego their college eligibility, but I think that's fine. We live in America. You get to make decisions. But, I struggle a little bit when, it's too much. And, maybe that's what's happened. If there are issues, and we're talking about college basketball today, if it is as bad as a lot of articles that you read, it's probably going to get to a place that it's going to get turned around. And I like your model. We'll still compete.
Yeah.
And they'll still be great players, and the ones that want to be pros, go be pros.
Yeah. If we may, got a break coming up. Like to just talk to you for a few more minutes. Can you hang?
Yeah, sure. Our softball team won today too in Louisville, by the way, against Louisville.
And I think I was checking out the beach. I was checking out the beach volleyball team. I think they did well as well today.
Beat Georgia State in the first match. I didn't get a second score.
Yeah, that's my favorite team over there, the beach volleyball team. We'll come back and ask you a few more questions in just a moment. Ray Tanner with us here on Sports Talk.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
I want to remind you to check out foundersfcu.com and learn how they can assist you in all of your financial needs. Ray Tanner back with us, having been at Founders Park today to watch Adam Hill do his thing. We'll get a little baseball talk in with the coach here in just a moment, but to try to put some finality to what we've been talking about here today, which I doubt we can do in this short amount of time. From a South Carolina standpoint, I'm talking about Gamecocks now. What's going to be, from where you sit, what's next up in dealing with this? You have any idea on where this thing's going to go from a USC standpoint?
What are you referring to exactly, Phil?
Well, just the FBI probe.
Okay, well, we are, fully cooperating, obviously, with the DOJ and the NCAA, and that's been from the very beginning that the DOJ would inform us or ask for information when the time came, and that's where we are. So that's all the information that I have. That's where the DOJ is handling this, as you know, nationally, and we will wait for their action that they take and when they correspond with us.
Were you surprised by what came out in the article?
Sorry?
Were you surprised with what came out in the Yahoo article today?
I was surprised. I guess it was about 5:45 this morning when I saw the article, and I was surprised in the totality of the article. And if that's what you mean,
yeah.
And certainly, you never want to see any of your players or former players involved in anything. If that is true, time will tell us. But it's disappointing to see an article of any sort, whether it's basketball or any other sport. College athletics is great. There's so much interest, and you start with college football and the Southeastern Conference and what that's all about, and the other sports as well. And it's just, to me, it's disappointing when the attention gets turned in a different capacity. And we've had to deal with some things, and got a lot of good things going on across the country collegiately. Being an student athlete, getting a degree, playing a college sport is one of the most wonderful things you can do. And it's disappointing when there's some negativity that gets a lot of attention. I understand it's reality, but it's just not a good day when you see things like that, whether your school's involved or not.
Well, Coach, one of the two concerns I have is when I look at people talking about changing the model of college athletics, you almost get the feeling that college administrations, there is not that cohesive trust, and they want to do their own thing to find their niche, to maybe cut a corner here for the sake of winning. The other concern I have is the maturity level of an athlete who says he wants to turn pro when he comes out of high school. We've seen many athletes who have come into college with no gumption about college education, and then suddenly the light comes on after that first year, and maybe they don't get their degree in 4 years, but they turn pro and they come back and get their degree, and the largesse they gain from their pro status, they actually use it not only to give back to the university, to give back to society. So I really don't want to throw all the great athletes out of the college experience, because some of those guys have been some great ambassadors for their universities and their communities once they turn pro.
Well, I agree with you. And like I said, you can look at this thing a lot of different ways. I like the model that, if you're a high school athlete and you got professional aspirations, yes, you could go pro, but I like the model where you go to college for at least 3 years and you're on an academic track and you got a chance to finish your degree, even if you're not completely immersed into that, because you have those dreams of playing on Sundays or playing in the big leagues or playing in NBA, but you have an opportunity to grow and develop, mature, and then when the professional thing doesn't work out, you're very close to coming back and finishing school. And we honor at the university and many universities across the country, we honor those athletes to come back and make a difference and finish school. And it's a good model, and they're more prepared, I believe. I can only imagine. I didn't do it, but I can only imagine becoming a professional at 18 or 19, and the one who's done in basketball. I guess that's okay to a lot of people. I'm not in that corner. I think that at least 3 years, and that's just the way I feel about it. People feel differently. I understand that. I mean, I would be good if it was 4 years.
Sure.
But I think that, like I said, the student-athlete experience is special. I was a former college player on a partial scholarship, and, I had a chance to mature and grow and develop and get a degree and try to get a job, and it works out pretty good for most student-athletes. So I'm in favor of what we're doing, and I'm in favor of the benefits that they have now that you didn't have many years ago. But I don't like the name, image, and likeness. If that's where you're headed, I think then you're in the professional rank.
Do you think there's this thing's all about basketball right now. Do you think there's any chance that the probe could jump over to football, maybe even to baseball, where players have taken money from agents? And hard to believe that it's only just basketball players.
Well, I would certainly hope not. And with all this attention on basketball, it seems like it's widespread. I'm optimistic that when the dust settles, that it's not widespread. That there's obviously some issues somewhere out there, but maybe it's not as great as maybe the media makes it out to be. And not blaming the media, but it's just getting a lot of attention. So maybe it's not as large, but I would certainly hope not. I just, I guess those things go on, but it just, it's disappointing, when you talk about cutting corners and things you do to get a recruit. And how recruiting is. You guys study it night and day. The great ones don't always turn out to be great.
Sure.
Recruiting is not an exact science. And, I just believe in the student athlete experience and what it stands for, and have some mistakes been made and maybe not done the right way at certain places. I'm sure that's the case, but I like to think that with some attention that's going on right now nationally, it helps us get to a better place.
All right. 45 seconds left with you. What did Adam Hill show you today?
He showed me some command, and he showed me from where I was sitting a good breaking ball, power fastball. He was in control. Great. It was an A game for, I've seen him a lot over the years, but he was pretty good today. And against a team that was trying to be aggressive against him, his stuff was really good. So it was a great performance by our team today. But like I said, we won in softball down in Orlando, and had some good things happen across the board to win this week in basketball. I think, Bill, of our 14 teams that are competing right now, 10 are in the top 25. So a lot of great things happening across the board. And your beach volleyball team's ranked 8th in the country, and they won their first match this morning. I didn't get a report for the afternoon match. Yeah, I'll get one for you.
The big night for Asia Wilson last night. You have any plans to honor her further with a jersey retirement or statue or anything like that?
Well, obviously, with what she's done in her career, and let's hope that there's a lot of games left in her season, I would feel very confident she's the first ballot when the time comes. But it was a great night. It was a great night, Phil. I hope you were there. I had my pearls on, and quite honestly, I had a tear or two. It was a great ceremony. I said to her dad, I said, "What are you going to do now, Roscoe?" It's been a great ride, and she's been great off the court as well as she has on the court.
No question. One of the best to ever come through South Carolina, and she finished it off in terms of the regular season with a flair last night. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time, and enjoy the rest of the weekend. I'm sure you'll be watching your teams win over the weekend, and then look forward to that big Clemson series in baseball next weekend. We always appreciate it when you come on with us.
It's great to be with you. I haven't been on quite a while, so appreciate the opportunity to visit with you.
Always. Thank you very much. Ray Tanner, Athletics Director at South Carolina, with us here tonight, talking about a very difficult subject now.
I have some reactions when we have a moment. I have some reactions.
Okay. We'll give you some medicine for that. Top of the hour break, and we'll be back.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pologic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
All right, we are back once again. Thanks to Ray Tanner on a Friday, a busy Friday. Not many ADs would take the time out to go on a radio show, and we didn't even get into the Dawn Staley, Missouri situation, totally overshadowed by what came out today. That was one of the things we were going to talk with them about, but that got overshadowed by today's development.
So much for that story. That story is completely pushed back.
All right, gone final at Doug Kingsmore, 12-1. Clemson defeats Dallas Baptist. Strong performance by Hennessy. 6 in the third innings, 3 hits, 8 strikeouts. Clemson goes to 5-0 on the year. Home runs for the Tigers by Williams and by Wharton, and 4 hits by Williams. A 4-for-4 day for him. 4 RBIs on the day. Wharton had 3 hits. So the Tigers open up this big series against a quality team with a very solid win.
Williams a triple short of the cycle.
And at USC, all Adam Hill today, as you heard. Gamecocks 7-0 over Charleston Southern. Offensively, Tolbert had 3 hits. Campbell had a couple of hits. Home runs for the Gamecocks, they had 4. Campbell, Tolbert, Olson, and Bright, all homered for the Gamecocks today. Still no Madison Stokes as he nurses that. It's a hamstring, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so we have Hank in Columbia standing by. We'll get to him in just a moment. But after listening to Ray Tanner, I mean, I think he answered everything as best he could. He shared his philosophies, I thought, quite well with us. And I think we know where he stands. He wants the collegiate model to stay. And I think he even agrees with me to some degree that, look, let's change things to where you coming out of high school, you think you're ready for the pros, you want to be paid, by all means, pursue that, and let the NFL, let the NBA, and let Major League Baseball put you in their farm systems and develop you and pay you, and you can go get all the endorsements and money that you want. The other athletes who want to be students and play their sports under the collegiate model go on to college.
I don't mind the baseball model being put into basketball. I think the one and done rule is a sham, and I think it's probably one of the biggest contributors to what the environment is right now. But I also don't think that you can completely take the payments to athletes completely out of the picture, because, and I don't like that you've basically painted these athletes who took money in a negative light the way that you have, because I don't think that any person, regardless of their level of integrity, could look at free money and turn it down. I really don't think, regardless of where your socioeconomic status.
You know.
Are you gonna I let you talk for 7 minutes, 2 seconds ago. Yeah. I want to respond here.
Are you putting the clock on me?
I have.
Am I on the clock?
I put a clock on you.
Why'd you put a clock on me?
I'd like to respond, please.
Okay, I don't think anybody puts a clock on me.
I would like
don't be putting a clock.
I would like to respond, please.
But I'm going to say this, as I said in the first hour, they know the rules. You're telling me you're okay with just breaking the rules because you want to break the rules?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
So you want to go drive? You want to go down
right.
Main Street, Columbia, and drive 70 miles an hour because in your Mercedes you think you can do so?
I think that people do it.
Answer my question.
I think people speed all the time.
If a Columbia police officer pulls you over, should you be ticketed for driving 70 miles an hour down Main Street in your Mercedes?
Yes, I believe so. But I think
so you should be penalized.
You're making a false equivalency.
No, I'm not.
You're making a false
You're
equivalency.
breaking the rules. You're knowingly breaking the rules. You're breaking the law.
I asked Ray Tanner, where's the harm? There's a harm. It's harmful to be driving 70 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. Where is the harm? And you had no answer.
The rules.
No, I asked philosophically, where is the harm?
You hurt your team.
No, I did not. That's not the question I asked. I asked philosophically, where is the harm? And he did not give an answer that said that there was any harm. He said there is no harm, other than the fact that it's against the rules.
Right. That should be enough under the current state of affairs.
Here's the problem, though, Phil, and I really have to hit this home. If I'm 18, here I am. Okay, I'm not fully developed. Here comes a 40-year-old. It's no harm in taking this money, son. Who's the fault at? That is the adult in the room right there.
You're 18. You can vote. You can go to war. You have the sense to know between right and wrong.
But there's a 40-year-old telling you so everybody does it.
So what?
So where's his punishment?
You're not a 10-year-old.
Where's his punishment?
His punishment's coming too.
No, it's not. No,
You don't think the agency and the agents involved in this FBI probe are about to get put in jail? Some of them,
please. Yeah,
okay.
I can do anything.
Are you paying attention at all?
I am.
Why do you believe? Why do you believe? You know, one thing. You believe everything is just is blown away and forgotten about by people. People don't forget. They're investigating these people for
They're not
reason.
doing anything against the law.
Yes, they are.
What law?
Why is the FBI investigating?
The NCAA bylaws are not the law of the land.
I'm not talking about the NCAA. I'm talking about the FB stinking eye.
Yeah. Well, what are they? They're just investigating in a probe. They're not indicting him with a federal crime.
They have indicted him. What
do you see anybody in jail? Who's in jail?
Well, they haven't had the trials yet.
I don't understand.
You don't go to jail just because you're indicted. They have indicted people.
I don't think you understand the difference between the fact that they're doing something that is against the NCAA's bylaws and against federal law. There's one thing to talk about conspiracies. It's another thing to talk about the fact that they're just doing something that is immoral. Yes, I read the story. I read the story before you weren't even awake this morning.
So do you know that, like, for example, Merle Code was indicted by?
Yes, I understand he was indicted. But
so what does that mean?
What rule did he break? What law did he break? Corn. What law did he break?
Ask the FBI. They're doing the investigating.
What law did he break?
Ask the FBI. They are the ones.
You don't know what law he broke.
I don't have to know what law.
You don't know what law he broke. What law did he break? Tell me what law he broke.
Was he arrested by the FBI?
What law did he break? You don't know what law he broke.
Oh, you're just being stupid.
I'm not being stupid. I'm being reasonable.
Let's go to Hank in Columbia. Hank, welcome in.
Hey guys, y'all the referee.
Somebody with a lick of sense.
First time that's ever had somebody with a lick of sense in it.
Well, one thing I'll say is, if you think that, I think that they is just kind of a tip of the iceberg of the folk who've been handling this, because you think, when I read the story this morning, out of that, it engrossed something about 30 to 50 schools. But that was just from one agent's death rating. So the agents all over there they didn't go into that agent because of the wiretap, and they rated his sources. Now you imagine that being widespread across the country. Mm-hmm. So it's not like it's just that small because it's just that one person because he happened to be on the hooked up with a couple of coaches that they first zeroed in on the wiretap. So they rated this officer. There's plenty more out there.
Well, I want to point out to Will here that one of the guys involved, Dawkins, is facing felony charges of bribery and wire fraud, similar to the 9 other men in the FBI case. So what are you asking me what they're being charged with? They're being charged by the FBI. They have been arrested. I don't need to know what law they broke. The FBI's arrested them. So what are you talking about?
Well, what I'm talking about is these particular payments. Yes, that's bribery, but here's the problem. It's going on everywhere. Like Hank said, it's going on everywhere.
Doesn't make it right, or that you forget about it.
Go ahead, Hank. One of the things I say is this, though. There was a sports reporter who was talking on the issue and said, really right now for the schools, this is just akin to the Marcus Camby thing, which is and it seems like all of the schools have a canned statement about their coaches. The only problem will come into for the coaches would be if a coach was complicit in this. Other than that, it's more individual players. And because of that, you didn't see, from what the stuff he read today, most of that stuff seems like it was taking place outside of the schools. The people that benefited more were if it was an assistant coach that was helping steer a player toward the agent, or handlers or parents that were going to steer a player toward the agent.
Yeah, we got to go. We got to go up against a break, but in the case of South Carolina, I don't know where the school can be on the hook for any of the problems here. Not in terms of exchanging the money. Where they're going to be on the hook is if the NCAA decides that P.J. Dozier
Was ineligible.
Yeah. Then South Carolina faced the possibility of forfeiture of all those games.
Yeah, you're going to vacate that Final Four, and that banner's going to have to come down.
That would be very, very sad. And that's why I say the player has to bear the responsibility here, too.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Well, after an hour and 20 minutes of heat, it's time to talk civility. And that can mean one thing, of course, the highways and byways of the golf world here on Sports Talk, as we welcome back for another golf season on Sports Talk George, Brian the third for birdies and bogeys around the Palmetto States. We need some calmness, George. We need some calm.
What a thrill it is to be with the Phil of radio. So I tell you what, it's a great day for golf. I sure hope you got out. Good. Great.
Would have liked to, but did not. Let me touch on the leaderboard down in Florida at the Honda. Luke List, never heard of him. He's 3 under, 66. Jamie Lovemark. Am I looking at another tour? Jamie Lovemark, 3 under, 69.
Never heard. Are you kidding?
Who are these people?
He played at Vanderbilt with. He happens to be T4's age, and he graduated, I think, in 2008, 2009, All-American, 4-time All-American. I mean, come on.
Okay.
Lovemark was NCAA All-American 3 years, 4 years, won on the tour, and actually I think Jamie tied for first loss in the playoff. Webb Simpson there. I know you've heard of him. Oh, my goodness.
Let me update some locals. Russell Henley, 2 under. Ben Martin is +1. Scott Brown is at 2. William McGirt at +2. Lucas Glover is at +5. Boy, the scores are really high. Tiger had 71 today. He's +1. He'll make the cut. What's going on down there? Was the wind really? I didn't get a chance to watch this afternoon. Was the wind really a big factor today?
Oh, that golf course is exceedingly difficult. On a no wind, and no rough with slow greens. The golf course is extremely difficult, and it's just tough. And there is the greens are difficult. The grass is extremely tough, and it doesn't look that hard on TV. But I've been there. I watched it while I was there last year. It's extremely difficult. When the cut is at +5,
yeah,
that is extreme. And then it's pretty cool to see these South Carolina guys playing great on this hard golf course too.
Yeah,
it is obviously getting a lot of attention with Tiger making the cut. Are we watching a Tiger Woods that is a shell of his former self? Is he average? Or what are you seeing from him in his game?
I see a better golf swing than he's had in years, maybe the best he's ever had. And he looks to me interested in playing a little bit different than he once did, and he's still got that competitive spirit. He absolutely burns for it, and I would not at all be surprised if he was not just winning, but dominating. And, health is a fine line and it's fragile, but he looks great to me. He looks better than he ever had. He looks better than he has since the early 2000s. The short game, despite what people say, his short game is spectacular, absolutely spectacular.
But George is a person who's, and I'm not ashamed to say it, that past the age of 60. When you look at a developing person, say the guy's a great golfer at 18, and he's still playing well in his 60s. How many times has he changed his golf swing because of just the anatomy changing?
Professor, you bring up a great point, and I think that's one of the problems. Tiger would have probably lost the past technical, and he not changed his swing so many times. I see that as I personally see it as a major problem, especially as good as his DNA golf swing, his authentic golf swing was. It was good enough to win the Masters by all price. And then he won several other majors, and then he decided to change it. I think it's dangerous when you go against what God put in your body, your DNA, and it's not turned out well for Tiger. And that's just my personal belief, but you bring up a great point. You really do.
Talking with GB3, George Bryant III, birdies and bogeys around the Palmetto State. A little bit of a slow start here to the season, at least the 2018 season for Wesley. I'm going to miss the cut this weekend. Anything going on with him?
Well, his longtime big golf brother, Chase Butler, who is my associate, went out watching last week at Riviera. He's actually in good form. Just a little bit off, but that driver needs to hit a few more fairways with his driver, and he is doing really well otherwise. And he seems there's one thing that Wesley does. He moves on to the next shot, the next hole, the next tournament really well, and he's playing his game's always been about the way it is. He might miss a cut, but he might win the next week.
Yeah.
So, and he's really looking forward to that one, the spring fling, the major, the season starter at Augusta National. That's for sure.
I was going to ask Dad about that too. I mean, how excited are you to be inside the ropes there at Augusta National?
I'm not inside the ropes yet.
Well, they're going to let Papa in there, aren't they?
Hey, I'll tell you what, it'll be so thrilling just to walk. I always just enjoy walking around on the grass. You know how that is.
Oh, I know.
The ropes, that's so beautiful. You don't even see ropes out there. And inside, if you get in the gate, it's special. If you can't get in, it's pretty special there.
Hey, let's talk college for a minute. A win by Larry Penny and Clemson down in Puerto Rico. So they've got their spring season off in good shape. USC also in the top 25 in the first poll. Looks like we can have some very good college golf teams again this spring in the state.
Hey, I'm going to say right now, that leaderboard included, I'm talking these college players, Wes Simpson, Luke Lewis, Love Mark. These kids are just as good, if not better, as those in certain parts. They are tour quality, and we've always had it. The Southeast, especially right here in South Carolina, has always had the strongest teams. These guys and the coaches do a great job. But these players can really play, and I think it's cool. You can go out and watch college golf for no charge, and actually get to go talk. These players will talk to you.
Hey, don't say that too loud. They'll figure out a way to start charging you.
Yeah, there you go. Well, for now, they don't. So I think strongly, taking advantage of the free entry. That's really play.
Hey, George, have a great week, my friend. We'll look forward to talking to you next Friday.
Truly a privilege. You men have a good weekend.
You too, my man. George Bryan III, longtime golf instructor, golf pro here in our state, and primarily working with the young kids. And we'll talk more with him about that as these sessions continue through the spring and summer. He loves to get with junior golf here in South Carolina.
If you missed our interview with Ray Tanner, 19 minutes spent with him addressing the FBI probe as it pertains to the Gamecocks. It is now on our website at SportsTalkSC.com.
Beautiful. We'll have the full Monty on NASCAR coming up. Kyle Busch has won the pole in Atlanta, 184.652. Ryan Newman was second. Kevin Harvick, Daniel Suarez, and Brad Keselowski round out your top five. And as far as baseball goes, we've got recruiting coming up for you, too, in a few minutes. Plenty of stuff on the recruiting front today, folks. So we'll get to that in just a little bit. We've just been so busy with everything else. Coastal Carolina scores 2 in the bottom of the 8th to beat Illinois in Conway, 6-4. So the Chanticleers have just one loss on the season. And Matt Urdenson picked up the win for Coastal to improve to 2-0. And let's see if Woodall hit a home run today. He did. That guy is on fire. Kevin Woodall Jr. with another home run.
I was about to say, with the tournament coming up, I guess next week, Southern Conference in action on a Friday night, which is weird. In the middle of the second half, Mercer leading the Citadel 58-48. That's in Charleston. Furman 31-16 at Western Carolina in the first half, and Wofford is trailing East Tennessee State 23-19. The Terriers on the road in the first half. There.
I hope we didn't put the sports talk curse on Duggar Balkin. This is his first game since being on the air with us. Not good so far, but they've got about 11 minutes to get this thing turned around down in Charleston. The full Monty on NASCAR coming up, and then recruiting for you. Also, some comments from Clemson basketball coach Brad Brownell to come here on Sports Talk. We'll be right back. Back we are, Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. On a Friday night, we like to cover all the things interesting to the sports fans in South Carolina. Just did some golf. Now we do a little NASCAR. The full Monty on NASCAR, starring our good friend Monty Dutton of MontyDutton.com. We're in Atlanta this weekend. Before we get to your reflection on the Daytona 500, what do you think?
I thought it was a very exciting race. I thought they had plenty of action. I think that many of the contenders have been eliminated and various things happen. And I think it's time to stress the fact, and I believe already from qualifying today, you can see that the Daytona 500 is NASCAR's most prestigious race, but it often doesn't have much to do with what happens afterwards. And, Austin Dillon and Darrell Wallace Jr. sort of came back to earth in qualifying today. And the struggle for them is to compete for the win as opposed to competing for, just a 15. Because, every year someone performs very prominently in the 500, whether it's somebody like Danica Patrick or someone. There's just a lot more cars that can get themselves in position to win, and it's not as much advantage to one car than another in plate racing as there is in other times. So I think what we have to watch here is whether some of the surprising top finishers at Daytona can maintain that when a race like Atlanta is much more typical of the way the season will go. I hate to be a bearer of bad tidings that way, but it just really does happen every single year. Mm-hmm. The biggest development in Atlanta's day was the fact that the reigning champion, Martin Truex, couldn't get the cross line. And I think that the significant factor is NASCAR has a new, much more detailed electronic inspection system that might well serve the purpose of eliminating the advantage that some teams have. I just got off the phone with a friend of mine who was down there, and he told me that when Cole Burns, who is his crew chief, got out of the huddling with NASCAR officials, he looked a lot like Paul Manafort. So there may be some heavy, there may be some dire consequences from whatever they found there. So that's a big development, and he'll start in the back of the pack. And so, other than that, I think we got some good balance of power now. Toyota had a big advantage last year, and it was the top Toyota that got nailed by the authorities today. So I think it might be interesting to see if there is more parity, because whatever high-tech advantage they had, they will not be as significant this year. But time will only tell about that.
Mm-hmm. So we got a little bit of a feud coming out of Daytona between Hamlin and Wallace. Is this going to continue into Atlanta? What's going to this comes, I guess, from the end of the 500 where there was some bumping and a crash there at the end. Does Hamlin dare take on, kind of the new guy on the block who's getting all this love and all this attention and driving for Richard Petty? That's not going to end well for him, is it?
Probably not, but again, I think that the intensity of any rivalry depends on, whether Darrell Wallace is able to go fast enough for him. Hamlin right in close proximity. Hamlin is a guy who's under a lot of fire, and Hamlin is one of those drivers that I don't mind his outspokenness because I value it. The way it is in racing, it's in my experience, but what fans are concerned, if they're a favorite, says something controversial or does something controversial, if they like him, he tells a lot of news. So I like him, he's a whiner. And so, Hamlin's detractors do that. My personal view is I've always thought that Hamlin's pretty forthright. But he might should have shown, I do think in this instance, he could have shown like a little bit more tight because it's not like everybody else in the race was racing as if they were following some detailed rules of etiquette. This is not croquet. And so I think that, but it's also true that it gets Bush in trouble a lot of times because people do things in these battles that they might not otherwise. They say things and they just get out of the car. And, with Kyle Bush, when he's in his right mind, he's a pretty good guy. But the back comes out of him when things don't go his way. And I think it may have been an instance of that with Hamlin. So, I don't think it's going to accuse it long standing, but I've been known before we've time to fail.
Obviously, the only race we have to go off of is Daytona, and then the practice runs that we'll get here from Atlanta. So the sample size is small, Monty. But in your mind, during the offseason, how much ground do you think Chevrolet picked up from last year on that advantage Toyota had?
Well, just because they finished 1-2 in the 500, I don't think that they had an advantage in the 500. I think it's more chase at the 4. I think the rest, basically, a year ago, Ford had an advantage in plate races, but not any advantage anywhere else. I think that was true in Daytona. And, Ryan Blaney led the majority of the race. And so I think that the ending of it was somewhat an accident from all of the wildness that took place when the race was on the line and people driving like lunatics. But I mean, I think that the hope is that there will be greater parity between the leading Ford driver from last year, Brad Keselowski. He says that if NASCAR uses this new equipment precisely enough, he in last year was saying that Fords were a disadvantage in most places, and he thinks that they will not be a disadvantage if NASCAR, is precise enough. But of course, that's not an unbiased opinion either because he drives a Ford. So we'll just have to tell. But I don't know if it's really going to play out. But I think one of the things to watch is if the teams like it's not a playing field, if the race track gets to be more equitable. I've always said that one of the biggest problems that NASCAR has are the ways that those who think it's a good thing for all the cars to be equal. I think it's a good thing when all the cars are equivalent. But one car is stronger on one side of the track or either in turns. I think the biggest problem is that the cars that are absolutely equal, it's hard to pass because they move up on each other inch by inch. And so I'm just saying that it makes more passing. This goes back to a line that Bobby Allison told me many years ago. He said that whenever you get the tracks get more like the cars get more like the drivers get more like, and then they wonder why no one can pass anybody. There's a lot of reason in that coming.
All right, so we got about 30 seconds. Who do you like coming out with the victory? Hopefully the rain not going to be an issue on Sunday in Atlanta and get this thing run on schedule. Who do you like coming out of it?
I'm prepared to say that Martin Truex is going to win Sunday.
Until?
My pick this week is, there's plenty of questions that I'm big on him, but I think I'm going to go for my pick to the fourth row on the outside, which is where Kyle Larson is. And he's my tenuous pick based on all of 30 seconds of consideration of it.
All right. Monty, thank you, my man. We appreciate it. Folks can get more from Monty on his blog, MontyDutton.com, where he writes about more than NASCAR. Check it out. We'll be back with recruiting.
These guys, they never sleep. Check them out on the web at SportsTalkSC.com. Now, more on Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Once again, thanks to Monty Dutton for being with us. Always enjoy what he has to say about the NASCAR scene. He'll be with us every Friday night through the long NASCAR season. We got any baseball to update real quick before I do recruiting?
Wofford with a 16-2 lead on Xavier. Hello, Wofford.
Mm-hmm.
Xavier, by the way, a paltry 1-4 on the season. So Wofford about to go to 500.
You next weekend are about to experience one of the great sports weekends of your life.
Am I?
You are.
Am I?
USC, Clemson, USC baseball. Should be 3 intense games. If we get pitching like we saw today from the 2 starters and on through the weekend, it's going to be low scoring, pressure packed, team that makes the fewest errors, the team that can get that run home from second base with less than 2 outs. That's going to be the team that wins. I do not expect it to be based on the pitching. I do not expect it to be one of these high-scoring weekends.
Rick Tanner wanted me to ask you whether you'd be wearing your orange this weekend at Founders Park.
No, it'd be the salmon.
It'd be the peach.
Or the peach. I call it the salmon. Yeah, I just hope the weather holds up and it's like this next week.
You know, I did an interview one time many years ago with Ray and Jack on a Friday afternoon before they played the opening game of the series, and I had the 2 of them together. I was going back and forth. And I said to one of them,
you need a bodyguard between the 2 of you?
No, I said to Ray, I said, well, who do you think I'm pulling for this weekend? He said, of course, you're pulling for Clemson.
Of course you did.
I asked Jack, I said, Jack, who do you think I'm pulling for this weekend? He said, there's no doubt you're pulling for South Carolina. So you know what? I got them all fooled.
Everybody thinks that you are on the other side.
Let's go to recruiting. Linebacker Trey Wilkins, you know, his recruiting coordinator, his assistant coach at Stone Mountain, tweeted out a short list of favorites in order for Wilkins that had Clemson #1 and no mention of USC. Wilkins said while he's strong on the Tigers, he still likes USC and really doesn't have a definite order to schools at this point. He said Clemson is like a top school, but I haven't put in any specific order. And he says, I really like everything Clemson does. This was interesting. He said, quote, I feel like from me watching, they've never had a linebacker as versatile as me because most of their middle linebackers are middle linebackers from what I saw. It may be different. I'm athletic enough to play outside. I can run. I'll be more athletic than middle linebackers they've had.
This guy more not athletic to you?
This is Clemson we're talking about.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But they've had, obviously, they're great middle linebackers. Anyway, he was there for junior day in late January. Here's from Tony Elliott and Brad Venables regularly. He has not been offered by Clemson, however, but he thinks when he goes there for their junior day next weekend, it could happen then. Now, he was at USC last week. He was several teammates. He already has the Gamecocks offer. They are a contender as well. He said USC is a top school, too. He'll be dropping his top school soon, and South Carolina will be on there. They like him a lot. He'd like to make his decision before his spring game if possible. Plans to graduate and sign early. How about this guy? Offensive lineman Xavier Truss, 6'7", 325 out of Warwick, Rhode Island. He's just big in offers. Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan State, Tennessee, Penn State, Florida, Arkansas, Florida State, LSU, and others. Got to believe probably the first player ever from Rhode Island that Clemson has offered in football.
They're just continuing to break down barriers.
Yeah, road grader from
He's a big left tackle. He met with Robbie Caldwell on his visit. Dabo Sweeney was out of town, so he wasn't there. He was at Clemson on Wednesday and some on Thursday before going to Georgia. Anyway, he loved his size and his ability to move, like his feet. He liked what he heard from Caldwell, loved the Clemson facilities. And again, he left Clemson and went to Georgia yesterday. He's a Georgia son today, then going to Alabama for tomorrow, Penn State on Monday. He said his top 5 right now consists of Clemson, Ohio State, Penn State, Alabama, and Georgia. He will take his official visits in the fall, and Clemson will get one. He'll sign early, but he will not be an early grad. Irma running back Kendrell Flowers was offered today by Kent State. Now, if you were following me on Twitter, you might have seen me tweet that he was offered by Penn State. my information source got it wrong. It was Kent State.
A lot. There's a big gap.
A little bit of a difference between the two.
Although one of them did have Jack Lambert.
Yes. He plans to visit USC on a Friday and Clemson on Saturday for spring practices. Quarterback Ryan Helinski of Orange, California was at USC today, part of a tour of schools he's taking. He's also been to Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Georgia. Picked up an offer from the Bulldogs on his stop there. USC offered 2020 receiver defensive back DeAndre Lambert, Norfolk, Virginia. USC also offered defensive back Trent McDuffie, Bellflower, California, Southern Cal, Oregon, Cal, Duke, LSU, Michigan, Notre Dame, and Florida, some others. Defensive back Marcus Tillman of Orlando plans to take an unofficial visit to Clemson the first week in March. USC and Clemson target quarterback Sam Howell, Monroe, North Carolina, was offered by Oregon. USC targets defensive lineman Khalid J. Cansey and linebacker Samuel Brooks, and commitment offensive lineman Mark Fox, all from Miami Northwestern, have changed their visit date to USC from next Saturday to the spring game, March 31st. USC target defensive back Adonis Otey of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, at Arkansas today. Clemson and USC target running back linebacker Quavaris Crouch of Charlotte, offered by Southern Cal. Michigan offered Emerald tight end Luke Deal. USC's been in touch recently, but maybe too late for USC to turn him. He's got some big offers now. Southern Cal, Notre Dame, Michigan, all offering him. And Clemson offered defensive lineman Joshua Harris of Roxborough, North Carolina. We mentioned that yesterday. All right, that'll do it for recruiting for now. Here on Sports Talk, we recommend that you check it out regularly on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. We're not going to have a chance to hear from Brad Brown now, but do you want to sum up a little bit about what he had to say today?
Shelton's going to practice today, or at least he did practice today, and they are hopeful that he can play tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. And he would not comment on the Yahoo Sports story.
He gave nothing more than the statement that was initially given earlier in the day, which is basically he cited his 25 years of experience in college basketball. He said that he's tried to conduct himself within the rules and has held his staff and players to the same standard, and he did not have any personal knowledge about the investigation. He would not comment or speculate.
He's also a semifinalist for the Naismith Men's College Basketball Coach of the Year. A lot of coaches put out statements, coaches who are entangled in this thing. They all pretty much said the same thing. Yeah, had no knowledge. Had no knowledge. Had no
ability is right.
Yeah. Well, do we have any reason to doubt them? I mean, we have to give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, if a player is taking money from an agent on the side, he doesn't have to share that information.
Listen, I like what Frank said, but we had in our open. He said, if you think that this has not been going on for years, then you're not being honest with yourself.
Is he implicating himself?
I don't think he's necessarily implicating himself. I think he's implicating, like I've been trying to implicate during this entire program, the system, which is broken.
See, but that's not the question. He said in his statement, if you don't think coaches know about this stuff going on, then you're fooling yourself. Now, one of his own players has been identified as taking $6,000. Does that mean he's implicating himself?
No. It means he's implicating the entire people who turn away and know the system is broken and doing nothing about it.
So you're saying that even though he's suggesting that other people, other coaches know that their players are taking money, he wouldn't know it.
He didn't say that they do it. He said know what's going on.
He said in the opening statement that if you don't think people know what's going on, i.e. coaches and their players, then you're being, it doesn't matter what I know. We're talking about the coaches.
Knowing what's going on and knowing that it's going on specifically at your program are two completely different things.
Well, I mean, I don't see how you can make that statement and then have a player under your watch come up with $6,000 in his bank account,
naive to the reality of the system,
and suspect that he wouldn't know. I mean, you have to look at it with open eyes here. You know, just because he made the statement, and this was before anybody knew that that Dozier was caught up in this thing. So, I mean, my question is, how can he say that about other coaches and you not include him in the same boat?
No, he would include. I think he did include himself in that.
So you're presuming that he knew?
No, you're presuming that the whole system is broken, and why not?
That'll do it.
I'm going to go get a beer.
That'll do it. I'll be at Clemson tomorrow. Follow tomorrow on Monday or next week.